Kristen.
Your voice.
Hi, everyone. We're finally back after a long break. We have a great guest this week, and it was a blast speaking with her.
This was like a therapy session for us, and we hope you get as much out of it as we did. It's a little long, so we'll let you get right to it. So, welcome, Teanna. Thank you for joining us on our show today. We're super excited.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Actually.
So Teanna is a clinical therapist working in a private practice. You focus on perinatal mood disorders and much like postpartum depression and things like that. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes. It's an amazing adventure being able to work with new moms, expecting moms, and dealing with all the things that happen, after you give birth, a lot of the mental health issues that come, because once you have a baby, everyone forgets about you, right?
Yeah.
It's all about the baby. So in our private practice, we're really focused on the wholeness of the mom and making sure that she's physically, mentally, emotionally, have her well-being so that she can go forth and, do that mom thing and take care of her child.
Yeah, I wish that was in like every practice. Like I wish like I went to a midwifery place for one child and then to the hospital for another child. And both times I had, obviously with Eddie, we had a difficult time just processing everything. But even with my daughter, I had a tough time I was away from family and everything. And I had a tough time processing, and you feel alone. And, sometimes I think after you're done having the baby, the doctor's office is like, okay, move it on to the next pregnant woman. And you're kind of just there for your checkups and making sure that everything's still working right. And the mental capacity, other than filling out that one little survey that just says, how are you feeling today? There really isn't a conversation. So I think it's super important to have that resource when you go to your doctor.
Absolutely. And so I work with postpartumwell.com. That's the website you can go to, postpartumwell.com. But postpartum wellness is really we are like the 7-Eleven shop. I love it because what we do is we make sure that women kind of have everything in this one-stop shop. So we do therapy, but we also have sleep experts and potty training experts and people who do massages. So we really try to give this all-encompassing experience to women so that they can feel loved on, because it's hard, being that new mom. And like you said, if you don't have that family that's near, and then COVID, right?
Yes.
You can't have, mom come help you for a few months if she was willing to do that, or, have a friend come and cook a casserole at your house. You kind of got to be able to manage things by yourself. So really trying to keep your mental health in check is so important.
Yeah. And I think when you're pregnant, there's so much focus on taking care of your body and taking care of your well-being and, everything. There's so many things out there. There's, I can't even tell you when I was pregnant how many times someone will go, go get this massage. It's specially for pregnant people. Go do this yoga class. It's specifically, there's go take this yoga class. It's specifically for
new moms.
I would have needed that so bad after I had my child, to just know I could go somewhere and just settle my mind and be ready. Look, You're preparing yourself especially when you don't have kids. I was just like, oh, this is so great. It's going to be so easy. It's no, it's definitely not. There's no way to prepare you for what you're walking into as a new mom.
Exactly. The transition is crazy. And I always tell people, no matter how ready you think you are, you're never ready.
No.
Whether or not it's your first one or me, my fourth, I'm just you're never ready because you got to add to that pot and it's never going to be that perfect temperature. It's never going to be exactly how you planned it in your head.
Yeah. And it's different every time. Mm-hmm. My experience with our son was such a different experience than with my daughter. There were so many similarities in my pregnancy and afterwards, but everything was so different. And
absolutely,
there's no way to know. So even if your mother or anybody comes to you and says, this is what it's going to be, there's just not enough words to describe it and get you to understand what changes. Your body changes. You have to get used to that. Your mental capacity, everything just is adjusting. That whole, I said, I think my whole argument was after both kids, 3 days in, everyone goes through a depression. Your whole body just dumps all of this emotion 3 days in because you're in such a high in the beginning. And then I feel it was just after the day we got home, I just dumped everything emotionally. And I just sat in bed and cried for a whole day. And I was no one told me that's normal. Like you're supposed to just dump all those emotions at some point. Like I would have liked to have known that I wasn't losing my mind.
I mean, your body goes through like this crazy, like, what the heck just happened? Because I mean, you just birthed a human being. That's kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah, just a little.
Well, as a husband who, honestly, in this conversation, I just feel like a lifeguard at the Olympics, where I'm just kind of useless, but I'm there. That's kind of the thing. One of the things was we did discuss about like postpartum depression being a potential thing after, our first and our second. But what was kind of intriguing was I would have this conversation with other friends that were expecting fathers, and they'd be like, oh, like make sure you keep an eye on that. You think about that. And they're like, what is that? And you're like, oh man, like, so there's a thing that can happen, that when we kind of go through I go through my gist of it. It's like, the mother has this child inside of her. And then when she gives birth, it's like you miss that comfort, but then you have this added stress of a new baby. You have all of these different things changing in your life, also just trying to heal up and regain, your self, as because now you're coming 9 months off of having a different body essentially. And so it's just, I find it kind of a thing where I found it a mission to kind of have that conversation with my friends when they're expecting and stuff, and be like, hey, just make sure you keep an eye on these things, and be the support system, because when it's just you and her, you have to be that 50% or if not more, because she just did most of the work. Well,
I think it's important too. Like we talked a lot about it beforehand, because I had some depression, anxiety, things like that coming like years going on before we got pregnant. Yeah. So our biggest fear was what's going to happen. But there's no preparation for the fact that it's a whole different feeling. I went years managing anxiety and depression from what my norm was. But that postpartum was such a different feeling that you don't know how to manage it. You don't know how to handle it. You don't know how to wrap your head around it. You think, okay, now something's wrong with me.
Absolutely. And I mean, you made a great point. When you already are dealing with anxiety and depression, you are more susceptible or higher risk of getting postpartum depression. And so I'm glad that you were able to have those conversations. And Mr. Lifeguard, you did awesome. Your prep work.
I was trying.
Because it's so important to have that support. It's so important because 9 times out of 10, the person who's going to notice that you're going through a situation is going to be that person who's with you, who's not you, because you're in this fog. You're not really seeing what's happening. You're not realizing that you're snapping more. You're not realizing that you're crying over a Dorito commercial, when your baby's 8 months old. When the baby's 2 months old, that's totally normal if you're crying at a Dorito commercial.
Yeah.
Do I have
right now? He's still crying at Doritos commercials. I cry
over everything.
8 years later.
So I'm not the only one that watches a Subaru commercial and afterwards I'm like, where's my TV? I want a Subaru.
That's Eddie every time.
Those horses were beautiful.
Exactly.
That puppy bowl.
But it's so great that you as a spouse were able to like really get into and understand what postpartum depression is. And then tell your friends, because letting them know, because it's something that it can really catch the husband off guard. It's just like, because you're like, did she just like go exorcist on me right now? And I have no idea. All I asked her is if she wanted, a potato. Like, and so it can be really challenging for you as the husband to really figure out what to do and how to support her the best way. And, men also go through a form of perinatal mood disorder. So it's always known as postpartum depression. But the research has really shown that men go through a form of postpartum depression as well. So it's when you bring a new life into your home, things just change. Yeah. Everybody's lives change. So there may be times where even as the partner, you're feeling more irritable, you're feeling, more frustrated, more stressed, overwhelmed.
You're too much.
He's like, no. Yeah. But
me? No.
You're like, not at all.
Yeah.
So it's really important just to really understand what the symptoms of perinatal mood disorders are, feeling that extra anxiety, feeling extra tearful, and sometimes just kind of really not being able to focus in on things, having bad memory. They always talk about, you have the mom fog, or you're like, nope, I got that pregnancy brain. Well, after you have a baby, you also have that pregnancy brain.
Oh yeah, you're sleep deprived.
Yes.
We call it mommy brain. Right? It's mommy brain in the house. You're like, Eddie, you know I have mommy brain going on right now. Like, okay.
And then I blame it on my other kids. So I'm like, I cannot find my Apple Watch. I'm sure one of my kids had hidden it, and I did not just lose it and put it in the freezer, right?
Oh, I'm terrible. I blame.
It wasn't me, Eddie. I tell you. Then it's the ghost. Oh, yeah, Chrissy. It's the ghost.
I'm terrible. I go straight. Poor Annabella. I'm always like, because she's just at that age where she borrows my stuff all the time. So it is a regular occurrence that I leave something somewhere or lose something. And I'm like, Annabella took it. And he's like, are you sure Annabella took it?
Well, because she will admit Annabella when she does it, but then other times she's like, Daniel? Oh
wow. Did you hear that?
That is hilarious.
That's my brother-in-law. And his ringtone is the damn
Daniel.
His name's Daniel. Right. How are you going to cut that out? Fantastic. We should leave that in. That was great.
I think you should leave it in. That was pretty awesome.
We've been getting more and more better. Well, it's also just leaving the organics.
Too much time to edit.
Yeah, it does take a long time. But okay, so because we're gonna dive deep into that. But we'll go into our.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, your story. Where'd you come from? How'd you get here? All that kind of stuff.
So one day there was a man and a woman who really loved each other. So I am originally from Michigan. I am a person who loves to travel. So when I got out of high school, I was like, dude, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. Like, I was like, I know I want to help people. I know I want to be in service to people, but I have no idea how to do it. Mm-hmm. So what do? I joined the Navy. Oh, hey. Yeah. So I went into the Navy. I was in the military active duty for 14 years. Nice. I loved every minute of it. I was able to travel to all these countries. I went on ships. I deployed to different places, and it was amazing. When I was deployed to Afghanistan, right? So I'm sitting there in full tactical gear and got a weapon on me, and there's a rocket attack going on. So I'm sitting in a bunker, and I was like, I need to really figure out what I want to do with my life. I think this is the moment where I really need to make that change. So while I was there, I was already working in the medical field. So I was working as a behavioral health technician. So I already worked in kind of that mental health setting. But when you get deployed and you have that medical background, when things hit the fan,
you're just
you don't have your specialty. Working and trying to save people's lives who were my age, 22, 23 years old.
Yeah.
And seeing what PTSD does to people in the moment, watching my buddies come back into the wire, into our base, and seeing the look on their face, and you already know their life will never be the same because of what they just witnessed. And being able to talk to those people and work with them right on the spot really, really pushed me to say, I really want to go into social work. I want to be able to advocate for these people, for, my brothers and sisters in arms who are out there. And, I never left the base. I was in medical. Mm-hmm. They brought them to me and I took care of them. But there's so many of them who were out there and, they had no idea, when they turned on their vehicle, if they were going to be able to come back and make it back into that garage. And so I really said, I want to work with this community. And I did it. I was in Afghanistan taking 6-7 classes at a time, because what else are you going to do when you're in the dirt, right? And there's no such thing as working 9 to 5. You're always working. Yep. So, I really pushed it. I already had some college credits and everything. And when I came back, I jumped into school and I got my master's degree from University of Southern California. And I've been working with military with PTSD. And then I started looking into other forms of trauma. And I really fell in love with dealing with people who were dealing with trauma and birth. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to kind of push those two and two together. And so backing up just a little bit, when I decided to go to get my master's in social work, I had also just had my first child. My husband and I had our first child, Aria. And
this is once you came back, right when you came back?
Yes.
Okay.
No, when I was in Afghanistan.
I was like, wow, you are really multitasking. That's a woman right there.
Baby on one hip, gun on the other, while I'm reading my textbook.
Pushing out a baby in a bunker.
Taking classes. I was like, wow.
Out a baby in a bunker.
I didn't know if she got pregnant there. I don't know.
So once I came back from Afghanistan, my husband and I had our first child, and I was like getting ready to go into my master's program, and I was so excited. And because I've worked with babies before, and I was noticing, I was like, something is a little off with like almost everything that she's doing, right? Mm-hmm. So, I'm going through school, I'm watching her. That's, as we kind of get into that, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, we were noticing a lot of things that were basically mirroring what I was going to school for. And so I told myself, I was like, this is my population. This is what I want to do. Because I'm getting it. I'm sitting here in this moment, and I am this parent that I want to advocate for. Yeah. Because even as someone who spoke the language of healthcare, I was struggling to try to get people to listen to what I needed them to hear from me. I was struggling with saying that I know you got the degree, but she's home with me, and I'm seeing something that's not working, and something that you're telling me I have this window, but I'm telling you that she's not even in this window. She's still somewhere, on the other side of the room. Yeah. And by the time she didn't hit those milestones, they were looking at me like, well, how come you didn't do this? And how come you didn't tell me? And I'm just like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So
a mother knows best too. Like, that's what I've learned.
Well, we've done it. It's been so many times where I'll sit in a doctor's office, and I've been sitting with Eddie. We've actually just recently, during COVID, I'm home with him all day long, and we've seen decrease in certain functions and things like that. And I'm like, it could be nothing, but it doesn't sit right with me. Mm-hmm. And I'm calling, and they're just like, well, we're not seeing clinic patients yet, so you just have to wait. And I'm like, I don't want to wait, because I know it's sitting, and I'm like, something's just off. He's healthy, he's fine, but something's just off, and I think it needs to be looked at. You tell me for years, if something changes, call. I'm calling, I'm telling you something's changing, and you're like, I think he'll be all right. I'm like, you haven't seen him.
Right. And then the first response is, we'll just watch it. And I'm like, no, I've been watching it. I did my part. Yes. So now that I've watched, I need you to do something. And so it took us a year to get her diagnosed. And it took us another year for us to, get the services that we needed for her, because, and I really credited that a lot to me going to school at that same time, because I was learning all of this advocacy and all of this policy while I was, doing all this advocacy and learning about all this policy. And it really just pushed me. And so once I finished my master's, every 2 years, we just seem to start having kids. Like,
just magic.
It just never stops. It's like every 2 years.
I'm so glad that did not.
Month again? Yeah. Okay.
I'm glad that did not happen in this house.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wait, we got another one. So, so every 2 years we had our children, and she was the only one who was still kind of like falling behind. My other kids were moving along. They're following their milestones. And so I was like, yeah, I gotta make sure that this is a priority. I gotta make sure that women out there understand that, first of all, every child is different. Mm-hmm. Don't try to, put them into this category of, well, let me follow, their sisters or their brother's milestone. Let me look at them individually. So we have 4 girls. I'm sorry for my husband.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry for him too. Oh,
should have had him on the show.
Well, he shaved his head, so because he doesn't want to show all his gray hair.
Oh my God! When he comes home, give him a big hug and just be like, "This was from somebody that interviewed me today, but he says he understands." So
you don't. You're not even close to that.
And it's funny because they're 4. My oldest just had her 7th birthday in June, and so I literally tell people, I'm like, yeah, I literally have 4 girls 7 and under, and It's funny. It's funny on a daily basis. Like, I wake up and just get coffee and just sit there. It's just like, okay, what's going to happen today? Yeah. Like, because if I think about it too much, I'm just going to like do that last cry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drama in that house.
Exactly.
Well, no, I hate to burst your bubble, but it only gets worse.
So bad.
I mean, like, I already feel like I'm in a sorority, like on a regular basis. My 4-year-old and my 7-year-old, like, they plot against me on a regular basis. But my husband is safe because like he's like the fun guy. Yeah. So they're like, oh yeah, Dad, he's gonna like make a fort with us and like throw us all over the couches. So we love him. Mom's gonna like make us clean our room.
that naval training and battle and stuff is really going to come back to play a few more years down the road.
It's funny because my husband is also active duty military, and everybody's like, wait, so you guys are like both Navy? I'm not seeing both of you because I'm the type of person, when I had my first kid, I was like, I got to get back in shape. I'm going to train for a half marathon.
That is what everybody says after the first baby.
Yeah, exactly. So within a year of me having a child, I have to register for a half marathon. Like, that's my thought pattern. Meanwhile, my husband's like, they make us run 3 miles a year. I'm running 3 miles a year. So it's so
sounds like our
contrast, but it works awesome.
You balance each other well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So now tell us a little bit about your oldest daughter's diagnosis and where that came from.
So Aria, like I said, she's 7. She has a diagnosis called Soto syndrome. So Soto syndrome is a rare genetic condition. Again, we had no idea what it was. I just knew things were off. So it's characterized by just an overgrowth physically. So even when I was pregnant, I'm telling you, you would look at me from the back, you'd be like, oh yeah, she's banging. I turn around and be like, whoa, you got triplets in there?
That's right. My kid was only 7 pounds something, and people said that. So and that was just too much fast food and really liking to eat while I was sitting at home.
Exactly. So she was always measuring big, even in utero. She didn't come out very big. She was only 7 pounds, 14 ounces. But after she was born, she was developing an extra large head. So she was always off the growth chart on her head. And so doctors are always concerned about that. She was a heavy baby. I'm telling you, the bones in her were real. And so she was growing really, really fast, but she wasn't being able to for example, it took her a week and a half to really keep her eyes open for any long period of time. She would open literally for maybe 5 seconds and then they would close for the rest of the day. And I was like, that's pretty strange. I mean, she's not looking at me. It took her about 6 months to really hold her head for a long periods of time without having it droop. She didn't sit up until she was about 10 months. She didn't start crawling until after she was 1. So it took, the developments were slagging a lot. Mm-hmm. And I was noticing that very early. She wasn't doing the cooing. It was hard for her to track our movements and everything. So the whole time I'm telling the providers, I'm like, hey, every time I'm coming, you guys are giving me this form. I'm marking no on everything. I'm letting you know that I feel like something is off. Just wait. Every baby has their own different ways. We're just looking at it, keep checking it out, and then let us know the next time. So finally, I just get on the computer and start doing mom research, right? Which can be very scary. Yeah. Because if you hit Google and you type in headache, you're like, oh my goodness, I have a week. And
so you have type 3 brain cancer. What?
And so it can really, really trip you out. So I was going down all these rabbit holes, and it was really affecting my mental health because I was so concerned that, oh my goodness, something may be wrong with her blood and something may be wrong, with her ability to be able to function later in life. And it was all these different rabbit holes I was going down until finally I sat down with my doctor one day when she was about 1. And I said, can I get one of your residents to come see, a training thing? Is that okay? So here's my thought pattern in that. So residents, right? They're just getting out of school.
Yeah, that's so creative.
They've just been looking at books for years. They just love flipping through books. And so when they brought the resident in, I said, hey, so I know you're in school. Have you guys ever been looking at some stuff that you're wow, I've never seen this before, in one of your books? If you look at her head and if I'm telling you all this stuff, literally an hour later, he came back with one of his medical books and was he has Soto syndrome. And literally I had such a flood of emotions and I just start bawling right there. I'm holding her away from me so that she can't see me crying. And I'm just I knew it was something. And I knew it would take somebody who was thinking outside the box. Mm-hmm. Because unfortunately, a lot of times the doctors in the healthcare system, they do the best that they can, but they're seeing so many people. And they're just used to the flow that they're used to.
Yep.
Yes.
And so sometimes getting someone who has fresh eyes and a fresh look on things is so important. And I'm so glad that I had that thought to just say, let me get somebody who's not been doing this for 10 years and is just completely blowing it off. Let me find somebody who's willing to look into it like an investigator with like fresh eyes, and knowing that I was right and that there was something going on with her that not only was affecting her physically, but Soto syndrome also affects them intellectually. So like I said, she wasn't babbling. The talking was not working. The walking she didn't walk until a week before I gave birth to my second child. So she was about 2.
Wow.
Before she was able to even take a few steps on her own. And her gait was still wobbly. She's 7
Right.
and still like, there's no like jumping down a stair or something. Like she has to really maneuver herself and take her time.
Yeah.
Much better, but she still has to work on it. So it took me a long time and a lot of emotions to really push through that. And then because Soto syndrome is a rare disorder, it's not a, what I consider like a big disorder that people really pay attention to, like autism or, Down syndrome. Getting those services was really difficult for us.
Right.
We spent about 1.5 years just paying out of pocket because I was like, I cannot wait for the healthcare system to catch up to the needs that we have. So we were taking her to physical therapy. We were taking her, to occupational therapy. And we're like, you know what? If we have to just pay for it ourselves, it's better than letting her sit here for another few years, knowing that if you guys just work with her, how do we stop the drooling she was 3.5 and I had to wear those like cool little bibs that you make out of shirts. Yep. I had to make those for her because she was 3.5 and she was still drooling. When she was 4, she only had a vocabulary of less than 100 words. And so it made us really push to get our own services so that we can make sure that she's good. Now she's in her 2nd year of kindergarten. So she's getting ready to go to 1st grade. And she's thriving. She's doing so much better. We're still dealing with a lot, but wow, the just getting those services was just so important.
Well, I think that you just hit the nail on the head right there, that you pushing so early when she was so young is such, a huge thing. And it's not to take anything away from parents that just maybe didn't recognize a symptom or sooner, because, we've been there too. We've been in both spots. We were in a position where we, got stuff for services for a child right off the bat. And we've been in a position where we haven't. And being on both sides of that, like I have empathy for both, and I understand, and the challenges are hard. When you're running every day, it's your child is your child. So you don't always see anything different because, like you said, like the way the doctors explain, like every child is different and they're all on their own path. And so you kind of give yourself that same narrative and you're just like, oh, well, they're just not great at, gross motor skills. I wasn't either. I do that a lot. Like I'll say, oh, I wasn't either. You compare myself to it. But then what I'm forgetting is that some of those things may be adding to a later struggle. And so catching, we've said it many times that I totally believe like every child can benefit from birth to 3. And what we call it? What do we call it? Early intervention here? Yeah. Huge for, having little Eddie in that and seeing other kids thrive through that. And every time I was there, I would be like, every kid should have this.
Yes, absolutely.
It's so beneficial.
And I found that also, like you said, sometimes you're just kind of running through things and you're going so fast and you're just kind of like, okay, well, they'll catch up eventually. And it really was, me going into places where I would be exposed to other kids her age, that it really kind of caught my attention even more. Yes. Because I was fine. Like I'm fine if I have to, help you to make sure that you don't have food on your face. I'm totally fine with that. I used to I tell her all the time, like even now, like she laughs at it now, but I'm like, you are so Dory. And so she'll laugh at me. She's like, well, I'm like, you're so Dory. I'm not Dory. Because literally you can tell her something. And then once you tell her that, 13 seconds later, she'll completely forget that whole conversation. And then you have to remind her, okay, remember we just talked about this. You were supposed to go upstairs and get some socks. And then she'll go upstairs and then she'll come back down with a book. Yeah. And I'm like, no, we said we'd go upstairs and get the sock. And so, and so she laughs about
those executive functioning skills, exactly. Where you can only give one task. I can't say, go get your socks and your shoes and your backpack. One of
It's go upstairs. Are you upstairs? Get your socks on.
Yep.
Let me know when you have your socks on. Did you put your socks on? Are your socks on your feet? Say it like 12 times. Put your socks on your feet.
Standing with the socks on her hand. Oh,
Exactly.
Yeah. Usually we're just staring in a mirror.
I wonder where she gets that from. No, she gets that from me. I'm super narcissistic.
That is hilarious. And it's so funny. And it's fun because I've learned to be okay with who she is, be okay with who she is, how she is. Because like I said, she can forget something in 13 seconds, but guarantee you, we play this game where like my husband will play like a snippet of like Disney songs. She knows like 99% of them.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I know that stuff can stick. And so she is treated like every other child in our family. I raise all of them on the Montessori style living. So because I just don't have time to be like, okay, let's make sure we do this. No. You know how to get your bowl in the morning. You know how to put your cereal in it. You know how to make your bagel. Like they are like on it. My 4-year-old will make my 2-year-old a bagel with some cream cheese and a heartbeat.
Oh, nice.
Send them over.
I really teach them independence because what I found is that when you have a child with special needs, the key is to give them as much independence as possible because that really helps promote their confidence because, they're already feeling like in their little minds. And of course, I'm just imagining, but they're already feeling like, wow, there's so much stuff that I'm just not. This is not easy for me. This is really hard. And even simple things like she went to physical therapy and it wasn't until later, probably last year, where she was able to do a 1-for-1 walking up steps because she would always have to like walk up a step and the other foot hits a step, and walk up another step and the other foot hits a step. And we have a townhouse. So do you know how long that takes when we're trying to get out the door?
Oh my gosh. Yep.
And I'm like, okay, I don't want to fuss at you because I know you're trying to get it and your depth perception is off. And I'm like, can you just hurry up? Like your 2-year-old sister just ran past you. Come on now. Like let's just do this. And it really took me to be like, okay, for her, I have to let her know, hey, we're going to the car now, despite the fact that I know it's going to take me another 10 minutes to get everyone else ready. So that I give her that independence to be able to function at her speed that works for her. And then it helps our whole house not feel frustrated. Yeah. Because I don't play that, oh, I can't do it. You can do it. You can do it. And I make her say that. I make her say that mantra. So when she's struggling with like reading words and everything, like, nope. You're frustrated. I see that you're frustrated. Let's do the I can do it dance. And then we like dance for like 7 minutes of I can do it.
That's great. Well, and I've noticed this and I think I know I do it. I'm so guilty of it, but it is so easy if you're struggling with something, if you have a disability or special needs, or if you just struggle with something, but I think especially in this community, we've seen it with Eddie, someone knows he has difficulty getting up and downstairs. Instead of just saying, all right, let's go. And now we're on Eddie's timeline. It's, well, I'll just pick him up and we'll go. And he's from such a young age, so used to, if he can't do something, it just means I can't do it. So I'll say I can't do it. And someone will just jump in and take care of the situation for me, that I even now am like, it's like a Pavlov's dog. Like I'm trained for him to say, I can't do it. And I'm like, okay, here you go. And I have to like reset and pull back and say, you know what, why don't you try that? Like this morning was a huge one because he wanted cereal. We didn't have milk. And he was like, well, what do we have? And I said Pop-Tarts, and they were like up high. And I was like, well, why don't you get this? I'm busy. We got to get ready for this episode. I said, why don't you just get that stool and grab those Pop-Tarts? And I look over and he's putting them in the toaster oven. I was like, what is he doing? And then he calls me down. He's like, I can't get them out. I burned my hand. But I was like, you did it yourself, though. Like, this is huge. Please don't burn your hand again. We use a fork.
Yeah. Well, on the other side of the spectrum, like I'm the dad that's like, no, you got to do that yourself. I'm not going to be around all the time, and nobody else is going to be around all the time. And it's like, well, the most recent thing is, like our nighttime bathroom routine. It's like, so it would be helping him get situated in the beginning and then helping him get situated at the end. And I'm just like, no, you're 8 years old. There's no,
you're like I think I said it to him once, other 8-year-olds wipe their own butt.
Yeah.
So you can wipe your own. And he was like, I can't do it. Of course, I pull
the Big Daddy, reference out. I'm like, you're 8 years old. Wipe your own ass, man. Like, I wipe my own ass. And I was like, you can say that too if you want, but like whatever's going to make you, I need that. You need that independence. I don't even need that. Like he does.
And like the first couple times, I think he's very apprehensive or he'll say, I can't do it. And then he does it. It's a struggle and he's irritated and he's frustrated. But then once it snaps, you see that kind of light bulb like switch go off and they figure it out, and now it's just a thing they can do. They're just doing it.
Yeah.
There's no more like, this is hard for me. It probably is difficult, whether it's mentally difficult. Sometimes things are just hard for him to connect the process. Like, it's like, okay, I have to get on a stool and then reach this thing, and to connect all those steps are difficult. I can see his brain really trying to work it out. But once he's done it a couple times, it's like he's not even thinking about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know that even with her teachers at school, I literally have to have this exact conversation with them.
We do too.
I say, Aria will do as much as you make Aria do.
Right. When you start doing it for them.
She will sit there and watch you do it for her.
We always say Eddie is cute and charming. Don't let it fool you. Because every IEP meeting. Yeah, every IEP meeting, they're like, he's so adorable. He's so funny, so charming. I'm like, he's using you.
Not really.
I'm like, how many times of the week are you getting him his stuff out of his cubby? How many times? And they're like, oh, well, we do that a couple times. I'm like, why? He can get up and walk to the cubby because it's also affecting his social skills. If he's the kid that someone's always taking care of in the classroom, it's going to do one of two things. Either the other peers are going to treat him like the baby, and he's already half the size of everyone in the class. So he's just the little guy, and he wants to feel like the big tough guy. And he's not going to feel like that if all the kids are treating him like the little kid in the class. Or they're going to do that, and these peers are going to look at him like, well, why don't I get attention? And he's getting this. And I would prefer that he just blends in. He's going to stick out enough throughout life. Let's just let him blend in and let him choose where he wants to stand out on his own.
I love that. And that's so important to let them come into their own.
Yes.
And it's interesting because I'm the mom that says, you know what? All of you guys know how to do something. You watched me do it, and now go do it. And so she is part of that system. And if there's something that she can't do, then I allow her younger sister, who's 4, they work together. And so she's getting that peer-to-peer interaction where someone her age is helping her instead of always trying to come to the adult to fix something or to figure something out.
Right.
And my husband, on the other hand, though, because he has all girls, right? Oh, my goodness. So he's like, no, she can't put on her shoe. Let me just do it for her. I'm like, dude, she just put on her shoe in 13 seconds when I told her she can ride her scooter.
That's exactly what it's like in this household, just opposite.
Yeah, because I'm like, I mean, I want Eddie to have his independence, but Bella, man, that's my little pumpkin. If you hurt her, I'll murder you. Like, it's kind of like that.
I'm like, why are you doing things for a 12-year-old? She's basically a teenager. She can do these things by herself.
Do you want me to get that for you?
Yeah.
Do you want a Shirley Temple?
I'm like, do you want to brush her hair for her? Like, she's fine.
You want to know?
I taught her how to ride a scooter last month, right? And so, she had on her knee pads, her elbow pads, her helmet. She was ready to go. But remember, I told you her gait is very unsteady. So she would put the scooter in between her legs and then still walk down the street.
Eddie used to do that.
And so my husband was like, no, she's fine because it's really making her nervous. And I was like, she's getting on that scooter. And so I keep showing her how to get on the scooter, So eventually she gets it and she's getting the hang of it. And she makes her first corner turn after she's feeling all confident, and she falls. So my husband is darting down the street to go catch her. And I literally grab his arm and I'm like, don't go get her.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, get up, brush it off. All right, go try it again. I'm like, if you go get her, you're going to make her feel that something has happened that was scary.
Yes.
leave her alone. And she got up and she kind of had that look like she was waiting for us to give her the cue on how she should act. And I was like, you did so awesome turning that corner.
Yes. We had almost that similar experience yesterday. We were out in the woods and there was like this rock, like I say cliff. It's not a cliff.
Man, it's all
You're
ledge.
You're a mom.
Yeah,
Everything's a cliff.
it's a very small rock ledge. It's like a rock formation. And it was definitely pretty steep. Like I wouldn't have been able to climb down it. And he was like, I'm going to go down that. And I was like, you're definitely not. That's really like steep and you're going to fall. Like it was a far fall. And Eddie's like, he's fine. I'm like, what are you doing?
Slide on his butt and everything.
So they like made a joke to him as he was just starting at the top of it. They were like, you could just slide on your butt down it. And then boop, his feet went underneath him on accident. And he just slid like halfway down. Then he got to the bottom. He climbed the rest of the way. And at the bottom, he goes, I'm going to climb back up. And we were like, okay. And it was straight like rock climbing up this thing. And he can't even feel his feet. And here he is, like positioning his feet and trying to get him in. And he slipped a couple times. And at one point he slipped and he was just holding on by his hands. And Eddie was like right below him. And Eddie's like, you got it. And I'm like, just
You're like,
do
pick
this.
him up, pick him up. I'm like, he's fine. Right. I like put my foot underneath his foot. I'm like, here,
shove him.
push off my foot. You're fine. Get your knee up.
And it took him a second. He like waited there and looked at both of us like, who's going to help me? Mm-hmm. And he kept saying, I'm falling. And Eddie was like, find a place to put your foot and grab with your hands. And he kind of just waited a second and then he did it and he got up the rest of the way and he was so excited that he completed something like that. And he's like, I'm going to do it again. And we were like, oh no.
Well, then, like we're in a bunch of trails. We have a little side by side, like take it off road and stuff. And so there's these hill climbs that are for like, buggies and Jeeps and stuff too. It's a large array.
Yeah, like a
of
Jeep
different...
drives up this thing and he's like trying to climb it.
So then he's like darts past us going to the next hill. He's like, I'm going to climb this one too. And it's like, we're like sitting there talking, eating lunch and stuff. And then he's like, look at guys. And he's like at the top of this huge hill. I'm like, yeah, see? She's like, oh, like you see the fear in this one's eyes, but I'm just like, he's fine. Like, that's the thing. It's like, cause she's like, what if he falls and cracks his head? I was like, that's how you learn. Maybe not that.
You're helping them so much because especially when you have kids who have difficulty processing information, if you immediately start doing things for them, you don't help those synapses really connect.
Yes.
And so even if it takes a little bit more time, like I always say, it used to be really frustrating. It used to be because I'm like, I can do this in like 13 seconds. It's like, yes, but I'm not the one who's struggling with it. Like, I know that I can do it. Let them have that gratification that they can do something. Mm-hmm. And then if they truly cannot, then okay, yes, we as parents, we step in and we walk them through it and we help them. But to allow them to try and to allow them to sometimes fail, I think that's so important because you don't want them to feel like their first failure in his life is like when they're like 23 years old and their internet girlfriend breaks up with them. Like, right. you want them to know what failure is while they have that net of safety in us as parents. So I think it's really important to really just allow them just to explore and to be who they are. Because we know at the end of the day, like if he really started slipping down that rock climbing scaling wall, that Dad was going to catch him. Like Dad wasn't going to be like, I'm stepping out of the way.
Like, well, that's a far fall.
We're going to be there. And we as parents really have to give ourselves that grace to know that, even if they fail at something and they look at us and they're like, why'd you let me do that? We know in our heart of hearts that we're only training them to be more successful as they get older. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's a good point. Like the fact to even just, like, I know Eddie would be there to catch him, but even just saying that out loud, I think it's a big deal. We live in a culture where everybody's mistake is right there on the internet. You make one mistake, if one parent makes a mistake with a child and something happens, you see it all the time, like, and sometimes they're tragic, but things just happen and a kid gets hurt and it's right on the internet for everyone to judge their situation. And it's going to be like, there's so many times where we just can't judge another parenting fail, which is really, it's just like, we make billions of them throughout their life, like we're going to have tons of parenting fails. Before you have kids, you're like, I'm going to do it different than my parent. No, I say it all the time. I'm like, both of our parents probably made mistakes, probably did things right. We won't know till we're done and our kids are grown which ones we did right and which ones we did wrong. Like I can't judge other people's. I just have to make choices based on my gut and go from there. And someone else is going to do the same with their family. And I don't know, their way's not wrong.
Right.
Right.
And with that too, I think it's really important for moms who are struggling with, if your child does have special needs and, you're struggling with, how do I feel when I'm, feeling judged when I go on social media? You go on these mommy boards and they're like, my daughter's been walking since she was 6 months old, and that can really like pull at you because you're like, well, I'm somehow failing at motherhood or I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I even struggled with that when, I would go to the park and my 3-year-old couldn't walk across the play bridge. And I would literally have kids be like, what are you saying? I can't understand you. Why are you drooling? Because, kids can be ruthlessly honest. Yeah. And I would also see like the looks of parents and they'd be looking like, come on over here and play on this other side because they would feel uncomfortable. Yes. And I just learned that I can't take that and internalize that and feel like it's somehow my fault. Yes. Instead, what I can do is say, you know what, you're having trouble. I'm about to jump on this jungle gym too. And we're going to do this together and be okay with you being enough for your special needs child because they are special. That's the whole point. Each one of our children, they're special in their own ways. And whether you need to have help medically to assess what those specialties are, the key is you can raise them the way they need to be raised if you just focus on you and your family. Yes. And not on like the barrage of, what society says should be the perfect child.
Oh yeah. Right. And I'm a true believer that like a lot of, like I was on those mommy groups too. And I just feel like a lot of times I'd have to stop and think and go, your kid's walking at 6 months old. Is your kid walking at 6 months old? Or is your kid standing at the couch?
Yeah.
And it's called cruising.
Yeah.
They're
and
just
you're like,
taking side steps.
My child can walk. Or like, I remember we did this with Eddie and I was like, why did I do that? Like, he was like 3 months. He was a very early like talker. He was like 3 months old and he had like a sound came out of him that sounded like dada. And I was like, he says daddy now. He already is talking. He's talking at 3 months old. And everyone was like, I don't think he's speaking. And I was like, he talks at 3 months. And that was like my brag for like a year. And then I was like, why am I doing that? He talked when he talked, like he talks. Who cares when he started talking? He just is talking now. That's all that's important. Same with walking. Like
he won't shut up now.
Yeah.
You wanted him to talk so bad. You definitely got your wish.
But like same thing with like, he was like 2.5 before he walked independently. And there's so much, everything on all these, every commercial, it's like your child's first steps. And it's going to be like, none of those parents even give a crap that their child's, they took her first steps. Great. Okay. Moving on. The difference between someone who now you have to keep watching that happen and then your child isn't walking till they're 2.5 independently. One, what that feels like, but two, for us, that milestone is huge. Mm-hmm. Like it really is to this day, I can tell you exactly where it was, how it was. What I guarantee you any other parent whose child took their first steps are like, oh yeah, I think it was around this time. I'm like, but you probably made a big deal about it.
When it happened.
So if it's not that integral to their life and their development, then why are you putting it out there for everyone else to feel like they haven't caught up to you? Like it just is. Let's just take the big things and let the big things be big and let's live, through our kids' lives. And I am guilty of doing it, but I feel like I do it in the opposite. I'm more like, oh, finally we're there. Like every time we hit a milestone, because I've seen the struggle he's gone through to get to that point. And like, it's really hard to explain. Like if you only knew the year struggle he went through to get to climbing up that mountain, like, which is not a mountain, the rock, but it's huge.
It's a metaphorical mountain.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
So to switch gears back a little bit, working in your specialty with perinatal mood disorders, do you see a significant amount or do you see a difference in, mothers who have typical quote unquote, we're not super politically correct, but typical children or children with special needs? Do you see a difference, or is it something that can just affect anyone, however?
I will tell you, the stress of parenting in general is there. And I don't really see a lot of difference between those who have children with special needs and those who are just like, WTF, this is my first kid. And like, what do you mean I don't get a date night anymore?
Mm-hmm. That actually feels good. I feel like as a special needs parent that went through it both times, more the first time when we didn't have a special needs child, but to know that like it's just overwhelming. And this is difficult.
It's just overwhelming because like, you know, for me, I was having the struggle of, you know, I don't know how to get her to crawl. I don't know how, you know, she's about to be 1 year old and she's not crawling. Mm-hmm. But then I deal with parents who are like, I can't get my baby to sleep in her own crib. And like for them, that is stressful. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people that you have to understand that what your stress point is not what your neighbor's stress point is. Mm-hmm. Right. So, you know, some people, you know, the hardest thing they've ever had to do in their life to another person is like, really? That's the hardest thing you ever had to do in your life? Yeah. But to them, that's their struggle. Yeah. And, you know, I feel like especially if you have a child with special needs, know that just because you're feeling stressed and you're feeling overwhelmed, it doesn't mean that you should sit there and ruminate over, oh, the grass would be so much greener on the other side. Like if my child didn't have special needs, I wouldn't have to deal with this, or I wouldn't have to struggle with this. No, but you probably would have to struggle with something else. Yeah. Because exactly. No matter what, a 7-year-old is a 7-year-old. Like my 7-year-old who, you know, 2 years ago could only say 100 words is like now a chatterbox, and like she beats me at debates about when time she needs to go to bed. And I'm like, you're not even using those words in context, but you're talking. So keep going.
Yes.
And so, you know, we really have to like stop and take a step back and just realize that, one, if you're feeling stressed out and you're feeling overwhelmed, have that person, like have somebody that you can talk to, you know, your mom, your sister, you know, your partner, yourself in the shower. That's where I get my best advice from.
Ditto. I feel you.
We can hear you.
Yeah. Well, then you agree. You must agree.
Exactly. And, you know, just find some way that you can really have that outlet. And the most important thing for every mom, but especially those who have children with special needs, take time for yourself. Like, don't forget about yourself, because we so often do, right?
I know you're looking at me. Yeah.
You know, because this has been a conversation.
Well, you know what? I think it is good advice, because I think the harder thing is like putting that into action, because I know you become for lack of better words, like a warrior mom. You end up on this journey of fight, go. What do I have to do next? What do I have to take care of next? Who do I have to take care of next? And when you're doing that regularly for such a long period of time, it is really hard. And that's any mom. That's not a parent with special needs. Like any mom, the minute you birth that child, you're in, I got to protect this kid. Because you were protecting that baby for 9 months in your belly. And now the baby's out for anyone else to kind of touch, hold, be a part of their life. Something could happen to them at any point. So your life just becomes like warrior. I have to take care of you. I have to take care of my husband. I have to take care of my other kids. I take care of whatever. And as life goes on, you don't stop. You're just like, what's next? Who am I taking care of next? What am I taking care of next? And I think that, is just probably, in our blood as females. It's just what we are ingrained to do. I probably don't know another female that doesn't on some level do that. And when you do that, it's just really hard to just go, I have to stop now and be it's really to be selfish in a positive way, but you feel guilt no matter what choices you make.
But then, like, in my opinion, I feel like I'm being selfish by not really enforcing that you need that time. I get that time. Yeah. I need that time. And you tell me I need that time. Yeah. But then it's like, that's kind of the thing where I'm like, you need that time too. How many times have you told me I need it?
Because you do lose your sense of self. So it's hard to stop and go, well, what would I like to do?
Right.
You all of a sudden don't know what you like anymore. You worry about what the real.
This is the time where you have to put down your warrior weapon, and you have to, especially when you're in this amazing partnership, because I haven't seen you throw anything at him this whole thing. So
oh man, you missed it 20 minutes before this meeting started. Holy crap!
That's why my husband doesn't get to be on camera. Wipe that eye off. You're fine. But
it was a doorknob.
That's why it's so important to listen to your partner, and if you tell him that he needs to mow the lawn and he begrudgingly goes and mows the lawn, then you too have to be able to do that same thing. When he tells you to go take self-care, go shave your legs. Yeah.
No way.
I shave
take that self-care. Like, it's so important.
Yeah.
It's so important to be intentional and to do something, sometimes my husband tells me, okay, you know what? You need some time. I can tell you're a little bit stressed. Go ahead, especially in this whole COVID thing. Because let me tell you, I teach them all day and I'm home all day. And then I have to work. I work from 10 to 2 a.m., 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Because that's the only time I have work.
Yeah.
He still has to go to the hospital every day. And so it's interesting because he's like, go take a break. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go upstairs and fold the laundry. And he's like, or not. Why don't you go outside and go drink a glass of wine? Like,
yes,
something that's actually relaxing. And so sometimes I have to be like, okay, I need to listen to him because what I feel like is, me taking time to myself is actually me just going to do some more work that I'm like, I need to take care of this. And he's like, that's not the point of self-care. Mm-hmm. Go sit down, go take a bath, go for a walk, do something that is for you. And that's not work.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like, you think, oh, I have a moment and I've been looking at that laundry. All of that guilt starts to set in. You're like, I got to take care of that laundry. I got to do this, I do that. And then I trick myself into saying, oh, I feel better now because I did the laundry. Mm-hmm. Yep. But really, I feel better-ish because something's at least in better order. You just feel
more comfortable that something's got accomplished in the house.
Yes,
and, like, the house is cleaner and stuff.
But self-care is like a huge thing. And then, I think you said it well when you said like it's necessary to do it. And I think once you do it, you're then still taking care of everybody in the house. Because if I'm not in that position, I'm irritable, I'm snapping at everyone, which is then setting off everybody. In the house. It's not productive for anybody. And then if I get some self-care and I feel better mentally, and, even if it's a half an hour or an hour, I go have a drink with a friend at a restaurant or something. Now I come back in a much more relaxed mindset and I can focus on what everyone needs to say, what everyone needs from me. And now they're better and I'm better. So I'm still taking care of them, even though I feel like I'm only taking care of me and being selfish.
I can't wait for you to start doing this.
Yeah, I know. I say it. It's easier.
It sounds so
it's
great.
Like a therapy session. This is great. So next week, same time. No.
Yeah, exactly. But no, really. So like, I really challenge anybody who is, just being a mom, just like going through the motions of doing all of this stuff, this journey that we have in our lives, to really be intentional about your self-care. Like, pay attention to it. Like, how you schedule these podcasts or you schedule a meeting at work, schedule time for yourself and make it intentional and say, I'm going to give myself this amount of time. And whatever I do is not going to be something that I would normally do when I'm in the chaos of my house. So, finding for Mother's Day, I told my husband, I was like, make me a cup of coffee, meet me in the closet and give it to me. I'm going to read a book for 45 minutes in my closet.
Great.
Like, don't tell the kids I'm in here. So like he's sneaking coffee like upstairs and like passing it through the thing. I'm like, hey, you good? But that was my way of, being able to really take that time to myself, read a book that I really wanted to read. I didn't have to read Goodnight Moon for the 50 millionth time, I got to read something that I wanted to read with adult words. Yes. And it made me feel good.
Goodnight House. I know that book.
It's our favorite one is Go the F to Sleep.
Yes.
Some days that is just...
But the great thing about the 21st century, Alexa now reads Goodnight Moon to my kids.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Little Eddie's favorite thing is Alexa.
Kids version, and it is like a godsend because I'm just like, oh, guys, what do you guys want to read? You want to listen to this, to the rabbit who doesn't want to fall asleep? And then, Alexa, can you go ahead?
Yes. Well, and the little Eddie is obsessed with it, but he is now, I can't say it too loud because we have one in this room and it's just going to start talking if I say the words. But he has creatively figured out that he can ask it to fart. And it will fart for like a straight hour.
It will do like fart songs, and then it tells you like the classification of
like
the fart.
What kind of fart it was.
Like when it's like that's a cheeky fart. Like it's
all
so
day
funny.
we'll just be, and he'll set it so he can get it to do it so that it'll start in like 10 minutes. So he'll do it, and then we walk in the room and we're just like, doing the dishes, and all of a sudden there's just fart noises like random. And he's giggling in the corner. I'm like, oh, constantly. And then he's like, Alexa, what is this, and this? He has like all these questions for it, like random questions that are like not even, but I'm like, whatever. It's like when I was a kid, I just picked up an encyclopedia and opened it to whatever page. It's basically the same thing.
But you should be grateful for the Alexa, because if he wasn't asking Alexa, him and Dad would like be in the corner making fart challenges. So luckily,
so I taught him how to do taught him how to do the armpit thing. So that's pretty fun.
No, that's exactly what would happen. Or he would be, instead of asking her everything, he'd be asking us, which in turn he still just tells us about it. He's like, well, you know what I learned today, and I'm like, well, good. I'm glad. Let's talk about it 35 more times.
Like this, Alexa.
Yeah. Oh. I can't believe it hasn't said, what can I help you with?
Exactly.
So, to kind of wrap it up, I'm actually really curious, what techniques do you use with mothers that are going through postpartum that have children with special needs disability? Do you have any, I think it's, as much as it affects anyone, I feel like I know for myself, there's that element of my body failed me or I failed my child, because even though there's two of us to make a child and it takes both of our genetics, I carried that baby I created that baby in my belly. I grew it. So then I had a lot of guilt of my body failed me.
Right.
And so I think that probably had a lot to do with the anxiety and depression that came after we had him. And I was on go mode. So I wasn't even in a place to even take care of wherever my head was at. Do you have any specific techniques to help mothers and special needs diagnosis, or especially early? I would say people that get a diagnosis early.
Absolutely. One of the biggest techniques I utilize is called cognitive reframing. So basically learning how to reframe what you're thinking, and not changing your thoughts, but really thinking of them in a different way. So to the mother who, has just realized that her child was diagnosed, with autism, and they're devastated because they're like, oh my goodness, my child is always going to have this diagnosis on them, and they're never going to go to college, and I've somehow failed as a mother. I will have to always, follow them everywhere they go. Instead, reframe that and say that my child has autism. I know now, as opposed to not knowing. And these are the things that I can do for them. And I am going to be helping him or her to succeed in life because I am going to be advocating for them. I'm going to be that voice for them, and I'm going to teach them to have that voice for themselves. So really just changing the way that we think about things and realizing that even if we get something that's devastating news to us in the moment, we can take that and we can still allow our children to thrive the way that they can thrive. And I always tell people that even if your child never walks their entire life, if you have a child that's never able to walk, you can still teach them confidence. I've watched people with no limbs be able to function on their own and have that confidence. I've watched 6-year-olds be able to walk through their school completely blind, because they were taught that confidence from their parents. Yeah. So you can teach your child to do what they need to do to feel as independent as possible. And the biggest thing is independence. And when it comes to their emotional state as a parent, I like to really work with people with grounding yourself in the moment and not feeling so overwhelmed, because when you're a mom of a special needs child, you're always thinking 7 years down the line.
Yes.
You see the situation that your child is going through now, and you're saying, oh my goodness, when they're 15, they're not going to know how to wipe their butt.
Yes.
You're so stuck in that moment.
Yes.
And you take that and you immediately throw it all the way down half a decade. And so what I teach them to do is ground yourself in this moment. Stay in this moment with your child and realize, just like when you had that other situation when they were 6 months old and, maybe they had to get a major surgery, and now they're 6 years old and they've been able to they're better now. They're better now. They're able to thrive now more than you ever thought they were when they were 6 months old. So staying in that moment is so important, because we can easily overwhelm ourselves, and we can create a larger form of depression in our minds just because we follow ourselves down into these dark places. Yep. And once you get down into a dark place, you refuse all help.
Yeah.
And it's almost like our nature. It's like, now it's dark and it's cold and it's lonely. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to hug my knees and I'm not going to move.
Yeah.
Because I've created this for myself. So I somehow deserve to be down here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So really trying to keep yourselves out of those depths. And if you do find yourself in those depths, I'm telling you, and I tell all the people that I work with, simply just put your hand up in the air.
Yeah.
When you're in school and they tell you if you have a question, raise your hand. I tell people that if you're feeling major depression, if you're feeling major anxiety, put your hand up. Why? Because there's always someone up there who is willing to help you.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't see that when we're in the darkest, deepest places. But the person who's looking in can really see that you need the help. And all they're asking you to do is put your hand up and they will pull you out.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's a great metaphor. It makes me think, like, I heard a similar one where it was, that deep, dark hole you think you are in probably isn't that deep down. Mm-hmm. So putting your hand up, someone can probably see your hand. Like you're not that far into the hole. It's just dark to you. You don't know what's above you. And, reaching up for help, it is hard. I mean, I know I'm probably, and especially when you are one of those like warrior parents and you're the one taking care of everybody. So it's a lot harder to say, well, now I need something. It's almost impossible. You have to find that like one person in your life that just kind of is a support system. I mean, and I think people think that there's, no, not you. No kidding. But I think like people think their support system needs to be their spouse or their parent or whatever. And it's helpful if you have that. But if you don't have that, it doesn't mean you can't have a support system. I think, you just need to find the right person that's out there. And sometimes you don't realize that they're there looking to help you.
Absolutely.
You don't have to have a great connection.
It's so hard to take just like that first step and go from, man, I'm in this really dark place to, man, I really need help getting out of this really dark place. Mm-hmm. And those are huge steps. It's easy to say it, but to really go ahead and take that first small step, it's really difficult. But once you do, and you actually have someone in your corner that can really help guide you out of that place that is not healthy and that is harming your everyday functions, you will definitely feel such a burden lifted off of you. And then you can continue to be that warrior mom that your child needs.
Yep.
Because if you're not there, physically, emotionally, if you're not there mentally, you can't be the warrior that they need in their lives.
That's awesome. This is like the best therapy session ever. We're going to leave here and be like, wow. We needed this one.
I couldn't talk 2 minutes ago. I started tearing up.
I'm going to give you guys homework. So
okay. I'm not going to end up doing it because I'm just a procrastinator on everything.
And I'll be like, you need to do your homework.
Yeah. So we'll just stress her out more.
But what I really challenge you guys to do. So first of all, self-care. Very important. I cannot stress that enough. The importance of self-care, right? Self-care needs to be done. But then also I challenge you to really just enjoy that grounding. Put yourself in this present time. And the next time your kids do something, really just sit back and really take it all in and really just put that into your memory bank of just amazingness, in this moment, because when you look back, maybe 2 years ago, you'll probably be like, wow, I never thought that we would be in this place at this moment. Look at them throw popcorn at each other. This is so amazing. And really take it all in, because each moment is just so important and so precious, especially when we're dealing with special needs children that, when we first found their diagnosis, our first thought was they'll never be able to do exactly what they're doing in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's huge.
Well, I've always been very optimistic, a very, very optimistic person. And
you're definitely the grounding one in the situation.
Well, because that's always been my kind of go-to, because we all battle with, I battle tremendously with anxiety. And so for me, it is I have to take that moment. I have to bring myself down. I have to be connected and know that this moment's happening right now, but it's not going to be forever. This is just one thing, and there's going to be another stage after and another stage after. And I think Kristen, like, I love you, but
no,
you struggle so hard with that. You're like, this is it now. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
We're never going to have kids. We're
Everything
never going to get
blows
married.
up
We're
in
never
my
going to own a home. And it's like, oh, well, the kids are upstairs and, you know, we're in our house. But those are the things that, like, I feel like have made us strong and stuff. But it is like, I still feel like I constantly have work to do on myself. And, you know, Kristen you definitely need to take that time. Like, you need some
for sure
self-care time. Sorry.
I will.
Oh, I'm so glad we had this conversation. I'm going to get yelled at after this meeting.
Couples therapy. I'm loving the communication.
Fantastic.
And it's so beautiful to be able to hear this yin yang, because that's so important to really know what your strengths are and to know that the person who's supporting you, what their strengths are, so that you guys can really, you know, thrive off of one another. So if there's things that you're struggling with, you have that person in your ear saying, you better go take a bubble bath and shave those legs. You know what I mean? Like, it's great to have that person telling you. And then on the other end, you also have somebody that tells you that, you know, I can be able to feel great if I'm just sitting here making cookies with everyone in my family. Like, that also makes me feel good. Like, I don't always have to go isolate myself. Yep. Sometimes just having that medium of saying, this is really emotionally like well-being for me, for us to all like sit together and, you know, roll out some dough and make some cookies. Yes. I mean, also roll out some other dough and make millions, but you know.
For sure. So tell us a little bit just about your podcast that you have, the premise of it, and kind of what you've got going with that.
Absolutely. So I recently started a podcast. It's called The Well, A Mother's Journey. And so this podcast is pretty much a lot like what we're talking about right now. It's everyday average women sharing their stories about childbirth and about motherhood, about the struggles that they've had. And then we also deal a lot with, you know, bringing guests on, you know, other providers and OBGYNs and people who are experts in the field to talk about a lot of the perinatal mood disorders that we as women go through that we may not even realize that we're going through. Yeah. Sometimes people have never heard of, you know, of certain issues that they're going through. And they're like, wait, this sounds like wait a minute, there's something that's called baby blues, and it's different than postpartum depression. So like, how does that work? And I have a voice when I'm giving birth, and it's amazing how many stories I've heard of women who say that they didn't know that they could say no when they were in the delivery room. Like, you don't have to do everything the doctor tells you just because they say, oh, we're about to take you back for a C-section. You have a chance to say time out. Why? Can I know more information before you put that needle in me? What are you giving me? And, you know, and that will really help you to create that power. So we talk about all of that in our podcast, just about the voice and the power and the strength of women as we go on this journey, because, you know, you hear the saying, it takes a village to raise a child, right? Yeah. Well, it also takes a village for us to be strong women. And that village includes our spouses and our partners and our family and our friends and our children and each other, because no matter what walk of life we come from, you know, motherhood is motherhood. Motherhood is stressful and it's tiring and it's taxing, but it can also be beautiful. And you can learn so much about yourself as you journey through those pieces of life.
Oh, I'm excited.
That's awesome. So that is The Well, A Mother's Journey. Oh, I'll plug that in.
Is that on everything too? Like Instagram? Instagram. Yes, it's on Spotify.
So we have it. It's on iHeartRadio and all that Buzzsprout, all that. Wherever you find your podcast, it's on there.
I know. It's a whole business trying to get it on everything.
Exactly.
Okay, so we asked this to all our guests, although this whole interview I feel like has been a massive amount of great advice. Yeah. But we ask all our guests, if you had 30 seconds to speak to our community, what advice would you give them?
I would say simply, be okay with not being okay. And understand that there are times in our lives, whether we have kids, whether we don't have kids, and we're just thinking about having kids, that we're going to struggle. Whether you have special needs child or whether you have a quote unquote child with no issues, you're going to struggle. So be okay with not being okay, and being okay for reaching out when you need that helping hand, because I guarantee you'll never reach your hand out and feel as if there's not anyone there to grab you. The key is to find the resources, to find the people. Therapy can help. Family and friends can help. Taking a walk can help. Opening your curtains can help. Really, really take that time to find what you need and then ask for it.
Awesome. That's great. This is my favorite episode. Don't tell everybody else.
For a long time.
I'm the favorite kid.
I feel like we connected. So you got the podcast, and then tell us again, what is the website for? Is it the practice, or what you had said it in the beginning?
So
and you wrote it a little bit.
I'm located in the Maryland, DC, and Virginia area.
Okay.
So the name of our website is postpartumwell.com.
Okay.
And we are also on Facebook and Instagram and all that fun space stuff. So we really, even if you're not from the DMV area and you're looking for resources, please come over to our website, let us know, ask the questions, and we can help you find the resources in your area, because there are people everywhere nationwide who are really trying to help mothers dealing with things, especially if you're having, if you're really struggling with things with parenting and how to kind of go through this journey. So postpartumwell.com, definitely go on there, ask the question that you need. And then, like I said, the Well, A Mother's Journey. You can also go to the Well, A Mother's Journey at gmail.com. If you want to send me an email, if you have questions, if you're looking for resources, like we just we have to be that community to help one another.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us and giving us our little therapy session that we clearly needed today.
Yeah.
The check is in the mail.
I thought it was covered by insurance.
Bill your insurance.
There we go. See? Thank you, Teanna. I appreciate it.
So you've been an awesome guest. We really appreciate you having on. Everyone go check out all the sites. We'll link them on all our social media and on the site with everything. I really appreciate having you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Have a great day, Teanna. Thank you.
You as well.
That was awesome. Thanks so much, Teanna.
Well, thank you so much for listening. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, please make sure you share with a friend and leave a review.
You can find all the resources mentioned in this episode on our Facebook or Instagram on @specialaboutspecial. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.